Oh, you guys were saying it. There is the lonely one of Lux representation in the top 64. And chat, look who we have on the feature table. None other than the Order Mine Queen herself, Lux coming in. Can she take down Irelia? Because this looks like a rather tough matchup if you ask me. But perhaps this is an aggressive Lux. You know, Victor has a decently good matchup against Irelia, right? We see all the recruit tokens coming in from Victor, a lot of removal coming in from Victor, and they end up getting the upper hand on Irelia. Can Lux kind of do the same thing here? I'm actually really interested to find out. It's okay. It's a little spontaneous, Chorus. I do not blame you. I appreciate you nonetheless for helping us cast here. And look what the Lux has in hand,
No
guys. I'm
problem.
seeing an Imperial Decree. Perhaps this is very, very similar to what we've been seeing out of Victor. You know, Corey, have you seen any Lux builds really, really similar to Victor builds?
I think the Imperial Decree stonks are pretty up there right now. So not only can it not be defiable or hit by not so fast, I think it's just a good way to cash in some of these smaller guys that you can see the victors usually have. So Lux, I know, runs Recruit the Vanguard as well. That's a spell that at action speed that can really take use of something like Imperial Decree. You're drawing a card off the Lux ability as well. So, ooh, and look at that. We even see the super, is that the ultra spicy aspirants climb, I believe, right? From the World's Bundle.
Exactly right, and it looks to be on the Lux's side, so she's just trying to go into the late game. Interesting enough, do you think she perhaps doing some kind of time warp shenanigans coming out in this top 64 round?
I'm wondering what this Forge of the Future might be for. I'm wondering if it's a potential we're trying to recycle other people's cards from their discard, or Sneaky Deckhand is actually probably pretty big disaster for Lux decks. They're not usually going to be playing a lot of removal for the first few turns. A lot of their removal costs 5 or more to trigger that Lux ability. So the Sneaky Deckhand's going to get away with 2, if not maybe 3 points before it's dealt with.
Yeah, and good point about the Forge of the Future. You don't really know what exactly it's for. At the minimum, you do get a recruit, but I do think it's for a bit of a counter against those fizz decks that try to look through the trash and find things like Call Shot. So you could remove those call shots, you could remove those stack decks, but it feels more so better suited against the Miracle Dravens, and we haven't really seen those been running as crazy as a lot of us were expecting in the beginning. So perhaps just trying to, I mean, for those decks, it works out, but maybe you're trying to put back some of your key spells later on in the game as well. So we'll see. And it looks like an aggressive ride the win to draw one and to score an additional point. We thought Lux would be the aggressor in this matchup. It seems to be Irelia starting things off.
Yeah, the Sneaky Deckhand into Ride the Wind combo. It's just a one-man army so far that's gotten them about a third of the way there with the aspirants climb. So, and when you see that first Ride the Wind, there's usually some thought from the Lux player that a second Ride the Wind has to be in the hand of them as well if they're firing off this first one so easily. But it looks like Lonely Poro is going to head into the aspirants climb, and he's going to move back the Sneaky Deckhand, and he's going to hold up a Defy.
Yeah, Noxie's playing rather sharp, knowing that you could go ahead and get the draw of the Dreaming Tree, and then of course play out your unit before moving back to capitalize on being on a battlefield already. And Lonely Poro wants to be the only unit on a battlefield or in any location at that. But interesting enough, I didn't even notice they developed their chosen champion. We rarely see Lux go ahead and use it. What is the ability of that? As we see a progress day coming out to draw an impressive 4 cards. That's insane. And 5 because of the Lux ability.
Yep.
Oh, what's going on?
Just the old draw 5 cards. Yeah, the Lux ability at reaction speed as well. You can add 2 energy. So it was still leaving. You still have 2 energy up after that. And Defy, probably not at its best. There are not a lot of 2-cost spells coming out of this Leona deck. Leona as the Lux deck. So just going to refill this turn. Like you said, draw 5. And now the Leona is up against the clock of the like 8 or 9 cards that are in the Lux's hand, because those singularities, those drag downs, those are going to start coming out here in succession here.
Yeah, to your point, that chosen champion from Lux's side seems to be rather safe in the base, because I know Irelia struggles with trying to interact with the base of your opponent. The only exception being you tend to sometimes run Charm in Irelia builds. It seems like a rather good card these days. So if they have Charm, that's one way of dealing it. But how much of might does it have? I'm looking at the screen. I think there's only 2 might on that Lux. So perhaps it's not that crazy to get rid of if you do end up drawing into a Charm. But speaking of chosen champion, it looks like Irelia developing the fair vent going forward. And let's see what Lux can bring to the table, because as you said, they have so many cards. How many spells are in that hand? I mean, this is more impressive card draw than Draven, isn't it?
At this point, well, you kind of paid a full premium for 5 cards. I will say Draven will draw those 5 pretty much for free. So it looks like we're gonna have a seal come down, and this Lux is gonna enable the potential for playing 2 spells with 5 cost here, I believe. One thing I think I saw a falling comment in here. Oh no, I can't count. Sorry, it's not even close.
I did see a
But
fallen
a
comment. You're not
singularity
wrong.
here would be pretty excellent.
And it looks like he's
Okay, so yeah, 2
recycling
blue
too.
here signals. Yeah, that's got to signal a singularity here. Yeah, so singularity cannot be defied. Using that seal to pay for the deflect as well, something that I did not know for the first couple times I played against the Irelia that has deflect as well. So the seal's going to pay for the deflect. The result is that Aurelia and the Lonely Poro are going to go down, and our Aurelia player is going to grab a card from that going down, and then one more card for the Lux player, replacing itself from the Singularity. And then here with the final floating power, it's Wages of Pain.
Wow, making full use of this Lux legend ability. We rarely see it. It's usually more of a vanilla legend. But as you said it, okay, at least the Defy is available and taking out the Wages of Pain for the sneaky deckhand. But the bigger value has already been done for the Lux player, removing the most important unit from the Aurelia deck. So really strong start, I want to say, for Lux. And I just never thought we would be talking about a Lux in a decent position against an Aurelia, the second most favorite deck, it seems like, in Spiritforged so far. This is impressive stuff so far.
So looking here, we got another Ride the Wind coming out. So Sin play is 2 turns ago, pretty much here. Gonna go to 7, drawing a card from triggering from the Dreaming Tree, and now Tide Turner appears to be our only remaining threat in our hand. Unless is that a purple Yasuo? The second card from his left.
It's the Draven Audacious, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Okay, yeah, they kind of look a little bit there. I can see now the art. Yeah, there it is. There's his face. I can see a little bit of the Draven's face now. You've got good eyes. You've got real good eyes.
And no, it's probably because you
I
don't
should
have the real stream up,
fire this thing up
so you
big
can't see it.
screen.
But hopefully, in between rounds, I can help you get the full stream up. But as you mentioned, the Tide Turner coming down, not gonna be triggering the ability, as this is a May trigger. So just leaving the sneaky deckhand, and actually, he will go ahead and trigger the ability and then push on forward. He already conquered both battlefield. He's gonna be sticking at 7 points, but he's just trying to go ahead and be like, I want to hold. I'm at 7. Actually, never mind. This is an aspirant climb game. I see why Lux is playing it rather slow, but this is a very dangerous game. I can't say I remember a game where one player had 7 points and the opponent had 0. Have you ever seen something like that, Corey?
Yeah, you'll usually have a lot of back and forth. Is just how Riftbound goes. But the 2 units that the Lux players play don't want to do battle or don't do battle well at all. So we've really been saving on to this token, which I think to Aurelia has to signal that we've got Imperial Decree somewhere in the deck. Otherwise, you probably may have tried to get a point out there before one of those Ride the Wind turns. But this is going to be that Falling Comet that we saw before. So that's going to be 5 to the sneaky deckhand.
Yeah, effectively eliminating from this game, unless you do have, actually it's undefiable. You would have to have a not so fast in the main board to take care of that. And one more draw. This Lux legend ability has been paying dividends in this game number 1. At least 3 total draws out out of that main deck. So well done. But the thing is, you're still at 0 points. You got to push the pace eventually. You have one recruit, and then you're going to have to trade your Lux with the Tide Turner, because if you don't, actually, wait a minute, Corey. Did Irelia just win? Because I think they have a discipline in hand. They could just discipline the Tide Turner, and what is Lux going to do about that?
Yeah, I think at this point you might be right, because we also have the ability to ready this Tide Turner to be able to conquer the Dreaming Tree next turn, because I believe we have Aurelia's signature spell in hand as well.
Yeah, we'll see. Perhaps something like the Lux ability, Lux champion ability into a Wages of Pain, because it's 2 energy you get back, right? You exhaust it and get 2 energy? Or is it 2 power?
2 energy.
Two
So
energy?
actually,
Okay.
sorry, what are we talking about?
Like a Wages of Pain onto Tide Turner. Like you have to take care of the
Oh,
Tide Turner somehow. If not, it's GG.
yeah. So I think that's really the last. Okay, so we're gonna let him hold up into 8, and I think really at this point we can just scooch him back, use the Aurelia. I think we're just gonna double check and make sure that there's no way that we can mess this up from here. This is top 64. You know, you don't want to be hasty, but here we go. So going to choose to use the fight or flight. So that's going to go back to the base. We're going to go and trying to Tide Turner into the Dreaming Tree, and this is going to be a salvage. And just to draw a card, and then a Stupefy onto the Tide Turner, which whether we let this resolve our first or not before we're just going to have the discipline, and that's going to be all she wrote, I think. Plus, yep, there it
Wow.
is, the fist bump.
Incredible. I really thought Lux had some kind of glimmer of hope there in game one, but she did a lot. But she just never really progressed the battlefield positioning, right? They eliminated board, but it goes to show, even in an aspirant climb game like we saw in this game one, Aurelia, surprising enough, with those sneaky deckhands ride the win. I think she did that play 2 times. That one sneaky deckhand might have gotten 5 or so points for Aurelia, which is really impressive, because I remember talking about it in previous regionals. Aurelia tends to be one of the slower decks, so perhaps Lux was like, I could take my time. Aurelia's not going to be scoring that fast, but boy, was she wrong. That was super speedy. But let's see what these guys have. It looks like a couple more energy to her name, or to both of these players' name, with the Obelisk of Power and then the infamous Sunken Temple coming out from Aurelia. So trying to increase the card draw of their own. This should be interesting, but I hope it's not, like you're saying, Corey, just truly one-sided, because I want to see a bit more what this Lux can really do.
I would usually think that Obelisk would be when we're going second as the Lux, as that way we can play the Lux on the first turn. So interesting that we're playing it going first here, unless there's some universe where we're allowing the Aurelia player to go first, which I can't imagine is right either. So I would usually think that we would be waiting for. Oh wait, no, I think this is this the one where you
Oh, that's
conquer, you
Sigil.
recycle a rune? Isn't that what I think that's what is on the left here, right?
You're right. I'm mistaken. They always look so similar. That is going to be a Sigil of the Storm instead of an Obelisk of Power. But how does she benefit from having Sigil? Is it just another way of slowing your opponent's game plan down, perhaps?
Yeah, it's a very similar game plan you would see to like MF Aurora in the first set, where it's just you're not going to be conquering the first couple of turns. By the time you are conquering this battlefield, you're going to be able to spare a few resources anyway. So, uh, like you said, just a way to slow down your opponent in the early game. Would have been great last game, would have been a lot of resources taken out. But, and this time, like you said, got to get that sneaky deckhand out of there early and often. So while he was tapped out, we're going to have the first threat here for the Irelia player just taken out pretty easily and
Yeah.
generating a gold.
Already off to a better start than he did in game one because that sneaky deckhand will no longer be available for a ride to win. And we're seeing it right here. Irelia did indeed have a ride to win for exactly that play. Now forced to play out just a lonely Tide Hunter. No targets available. You do have the option of an aggressive ride to win, but it almost seems a bit unnecessary. Wait till it's a little bit more valuable down the line. Let's see what Lux can do because we know she has a lot of removal, but what kind of units other than the simple recruit from the Forge of the Future and then the champion are they running? Do you think they have Rek'Sai or what? Not Rek'Sai, Riptide Rex.
I think we may only be seeing spell based those units like from Forge of the Future and from Recruit the Vanguard and the Vanguard Armory. I think that's probably it. You do want to have a critical mass of those spells that will trigger your Lux. And here comes a Call the Week, which actually all of the cards in our hand cannot handle. We would need a Defy specifically here, but we had pretty much everything else covered. And
Not
here
too
comes the
bad.
Chosen Lux. A much better setup this game for the Lux player going into the first couple of turns here.
I believe so, right? Because they're able to take care of these units as soon as they're coming down. But now the most important target you're supposed to try to take care of as soon as they do ND come down is the Fairvent. Can Lux have something like, would you invest a singularity for a single unit? It almost
At
feels
this point,
worth.
you kind of wish you had the Call the Week that you had last turn. That would be the pretty much the best, is if we could have made a token Call the Week, because that gets a buy everything except for a Defy. So right now, I think even if you do target this Irelia, you have to assume that there has to be at least some kind of reaction. Could be On Guard, could be Discipline, could be one of the counter spells. So yeah, I think we're just gonna say go, and the Lux is gonna use, or is gonna make the Irelia use their resources on their turn, and then that way, even if the Irelia does get through this turn, then on the Lux's next turn, he should be able to clear it through. So, uh,
Yeah, let's see what game plan Lux has in mind, because leaving a whole entire set of runes available on their opposing side, I believe that's 2, 4, 6, 8 total runes. So you could have a whole lot of combat tricks. Let's see what a Fairvent pushing forward is going to be eating to the face. But off the rip, I can't, or off the top, I can't really think of anything that would take care of a Fairvent. And it looks like Irelia perhaps a bit intimidated from the impressive amount of runes available. So playing patiently for now and passes it back over to Lux, see what she has to do. Because it's tricky because Aurelia can get so tall with the Fairvent, with those combat tricks like Discipline, On Guard, Defiant Dance. It almost feels like Lux can't keep up with that. I mean, let alone a lot of decks can't really keep up with that. But Lux being a 2 might, Recruit tokens being 1 might, and look at that, Corey. That is a pass back without doing anything. This is a crazy game so far. Not in the best of ways, of
they might
course.
just they might just keep saying go, and then I might be wrong. This might be the last match that we have, and we're here for 2.5 hours watching this one. At this rate, we're at a snail's pace, but with the Stellacorn now, you can feel a lot better about committing that to a battlefield, because if it dies, you kind of already drew a card or whatever. But if the Aurelia dies, that's a lot. You're a lot more doomed. But we may just see again just passing here from the Aurelia player, just saying, if you're just going to not do absolutely anything on your turn every single time, I'm just going to advance my board a little bit. And there's the Call of the Week right on time. And you can see, I
Right.
think that's pretty, you can see the player's reaction there is thinking, I wish we had that a couple turns earlier.
That would have set up perfectly, allowing him to push a bit more aggressively, because then you feel safer pushing in with your Lux chosen champ. But this is not looking too good. Corey, what is Aurelia being so cautious about to not even let go of the Stellacorn there? You think it's just a simple Wages of Pain that he's been playing so far in this match? Or is there any
I think
other spells?
it's a bit more of a resource game at this point, because if the Lux is just drawing a card and saying go, then as long as he doesn't start a showdown, then his opponent can't play anything. So he's just going to amass a board into his battlefield and effectively making this Lux just skip their turn a couple of turns and then really put the pressure on their resources in a single turn while they can keep up things like Discipline and Not So Fast that counter spells like Singularity just for 2 mana.
And yeah, speaking of not so fast, it might just very well be coming out completely countering that singularity, which is impressive to do because you just saved yourself from 2 units going down. And I believe you didn't pay, you still have to pay the power for singularity, right? I can't, I don't know if they did it, but I mean, I'm sure they have the
I
runes
think
to
he did.
pay.
It looks like he did. Yeah, because he has the Lux tapped, and then he has those 3, and then because he played a salvage as well, so 1 left floating. Yeah, there should be with 2 blue runes on the bottom of his deck, and he paid for
Okay.
everything.
Yeah, so that was a perfect play for Irelia, keeping her units alive. Now I would imagine you have to push it where you can. So trying to get up to 2 points. And just like you said, Corey, maybe this one isn't going to be as fast as we expected, as these guys just have about 20. Actually, the timer is counting up. Of course, even in the round of top 64, it is completely untimed, which I'm not the biggest fan of because we've seen from the previous regionals, some of these players have gone up to an hour and a half just for a single best of 3. I feel like they should cap it at something like that. If any player is going more than a 90-minute, they're doing something a little bit crazy.
I believe this is the only event in China. Well, maybe some of the best of 1 events, but at local events, there's no round timer. So a lot of these Chinese players, this may be the first event that they've played where they've had a round timer at some point. So their pace of play does seem to be a bit less brisk overall, I would say, compared to maybe NA or EU. But I would like to see a time limit as well. I mean, we've seen all these tournaments. How many of these now where some of these matches can go close to 2 hours,
Hmm.
and I also think that's just not very fair to a lot of the other players too, if they have to kind of sit around and wait for all of that. So
Yeah, I completely agree. Hopefully, they make some kind of adjustments in the future because these are supposed to be scheduled for about an 8-hour event, and last regional ended up lasting an impressive 13 hours. But a drag under, we were wondering what kind of combat tricks does Lux have in mind? Drag under being one of them, kill a unit at a battlefield. I believe it just simply says that, doesn't it?
yep, and it can cost 2 less if you play it from anywhere other than your hand, which I don't think that tax really matters too much for Lux.
Mm-hmm.
But one of their spells here that is not damage based, but I think we're still just gonna get this discipline to draw another card, see if we maybe draw another not so fast. Though I don't know if we'd want to fire that off just yet. Nope, we're gonna pick up Aurelia's signature spell. The Drag Under is gonna take care of the yeah, get that Drag Under out of here. Okay, we'll draw from the Lux. And then here comes
It
Draven.
just feels to me that Lux just lacking so much on trying to conquer battlefields. We've seen it not only in game 1, but we're seeing it right here in game 2 as well. All she has to do,
Oh,
and
the
oh
charm
my
though.
goodness, this is going to be a huge moment in the game. The only unit available for Lux completely eliminated now on the back of all her recruits that are nowhere to be found. Where are those Vanguard armories? Where are those? I mean, at this point, let's see something like a manufacturer or a Captain Vanguard, just something to try to push because the name of the game, you have to score points, you have to conquer these battlefields. It just doesn't seem like Lux. Perhaps this is just not how the deck runs, and we're seeing the worst sides of the deck. But 2 times now, it just seems like she's lacking the conquer capabilities from this deck.
I think the Aurelia player controlled the pace of this game very well. Multiple turns, making that Lux player just pass their entire turn. So while he just built up, a good board to be able to send in multiple units in turns, he also built up a hand as well. So here comes a Vanguard Armory, like you said, but these units are not going to be able to attack this turn at all. So Aurelia is going to be going to 6. And interesting that we did this in this order
I
because we could
know.
have kept one of of our tokens. This is one thing I don't know if people know. With Call of the Week, you don't have to have a unit to get rid of to play the card. So if you just have nothing in play, your opponent will still banish one of their units from Call of the Week. But
because they didn't just draw the Call of the Week, right? They had the Call of the Week because Vanguard Armory is a gear, so you're not going to be drawing one from Lux's ability. So they absolutely should have played Call first, not, save one of the recruit tokens, but perhaps a bit tunnel vision, knowing that they're so far behind. They lost a 8-0 last game. It felt like 8-0. It probably was like 8-1, but now they're 5-0. Perhaps another what feels like zero conquer points game for Lux, and other people in chat saying, how did this deck make it a top 64? I mean, there's a lot of decks. 510 players played in this event, and Lux managed to squeeze their way into the top 64. So there's something here. We're just not seeing it. Perhaps this is a bad matchup for her, but we'll see. I mean, Vanguard Armory is a very impressive card. Hopefully something like Imperial Decree could try to stabilize her in a sense, take care of the Draven. But it just seems a little bit too late when we're talking about a 5-0 point discrepancy.
okay, and now we're gonna see the first Irelia activation of the match to have the stale corn move in. And I have to imagine that for Lux, the Guardian Angel not so fast deck has to be just like your absolute worst matchup. I can see this deck beating up a little bit more on some of the Draven decks, perhaps, but this seems like as close to an unwinnable matchup for the Lux player as there could be.
Yeah. It really does seem that way. Almost the same as what we saw in the round of top 64 last weekend. Like we said, the Ornn versus the Victor. But this is a little bit of a flip-flop scenario. Victor was the one pushing the pace against Ornn. Unrelentless pressure every single turn. And it almost feels the same way for Irelia on the other side, of course. But let's see, is there a world where Lux should try to stabilize? She picked up a Drag Under, not a terrible card. You're able to kill a unit. But as you said, the Guardian Angel able to save the Audacious. And they're at 6, most likely going up to 7 next turn with one of these holds because your recruit tokens don't seem to be doing too much. But trying to go with the Wages of Pain. Trying to say, do you have any kind of counter for this?
Oh, I think he's reading if it has to be at a battlefield or not, since we hid the fight or flight. So I think we're just gonna play the fight or flight, move our guy, draw a card.
And it does very well read Battlefield just the same way as Hidden Blade. So the Fighter Flight being reaction speed saves the Stellar Corn. On top of saving it, you do get an additional +1 draw for Irelia. So she is looking good. And to be fair, Irelia is playing very clean, very sharp. So I definitely see why she's made her way into the top 64. Perhaps we see this Irelia player specifically, make a bit of a deeper run into top 32 and potentially even top 16. And I see why the Savage is coming in clutch against things like Draven, against things like Irelia. You take care of the Guardian Angels. And do you have anything left with 6 energy? That's an Imperial Decree most likely, but do you have it in hand is the question.
That kind of looks like what we might be counting out right now. 2 runes going to the bottom, and I will think this is... No, it's going to be a Singularity, actually. Which, if we have a second not so fast, I think we just kind of will show them that one pretty quickly, but I think we just have Discipline again in our hand. Oh no, we have Aurelia's signature spell.
That is one way of getting over the Singularity. You go up to 8 total might, so you could still get rid of the Draven, of course, but if that's another fight or flight, it won't be enough because one of those recruit tokens is at -1. Of course, the same thing as being at 0 for Riftbound rules, but you push back the one with might, and then you're not going to be taking any damage from your recruit tokens. And okay, that was a decent pickup from the Lux draw. They've been looking for answers. They're just completely out of runes in this position. They wish they had 1 to 2 more energy available because you do have the Call of the Week, and I believe Irelia does have 1, so I guess perhaps there could have been a Defy either way. But this is looking rather bleak for Lux. I think it might be as good as over at this position, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't really see where now what we could draw after that. I mean, I think had we seen those Call of the Weeks a little earlier in the game, we might be talking about something else. We'll see if Lux decides to get another point in garbage time here, or yeah, we're gonna get the garbage time point. We're gonna be able to say, "Mom, I got a point in both games. Don't worry."
Yeah, little mini
So
victories, as we like to call it here. Just saying, I didn't get completely blown out. I did get a little participation trophy. I did something in this game because, quite honestly, it felt like they weren't able to move, accomplish. I don't want to say nothing. They made it into top 64 for a reason. But man, just not the very impressive performance. You see him shaking his head. This is not what he wanted to premiere on stream. He said, I wanted to showcase why Lux is a powerful legend, something to be messed with, but no, no, no. The Draven holding it down, going up to 8. Or actually, what did he push? The charm? Oh, winning the combat, of course.
yeah, that's got to be a nightmare again for Lux. You just you go your whole first day. You're five. I think that was 5-0-2. I believe their record was. I can't imagine that this Irelia player was five, or maybe they were 5-0-2 and they drew in the Ezreal mirror as well. I think they've never done this, like had like a backup match like this, right?
I love it because they knew it was getting a little bit out of hand with the full long breaks. And Corey, do you recognize this Ezreal player? He was the pit crew player that ended up getting third place in the Chengdu Regional here, trying to continue on an amazing run following last weekend. Can he do it again? It looks like, as you mentioned, it is an Ezreal mirror match. I don't think he was expecting to run into too many of those. There was only 4 left in top 64.
Speaking of Randy, this was one of Randy's only losses in the Swiss as well. I saw that he had mentioned was that he lost to the pit crew technology. So this was one of the more hyped decks, I think, in the last couple of weekends that people were not really expecting a lot of. I think people saw the Ezreal decks and were thinking they were going to be built more on the Miracle side, but then all of a sudden you see this card from set one that nobody knew existed, and its combination with Doran's ring, and he just starts going off and everyone gets really excited. So a game three here between these, we are being blessed.
Oh, truly, truly blessed. It looks like it's a different battlefield than we saw in the past. Actually, Vale Temple, when you conquer here, you may ready a friendly gear. So, interesting enough, I wonder what he's trying to use that for, because it looks like it's the player on the left's Vale Temple. We don't get to see that battlefield too often. I'll go ahead and put him on the screen now. But then Void Gate, we have seen, because those Bellows Breasts, because the Wages of Pain, there's a lot of capabilities for pinging your opponents on that battlefield. So that one seems a little bit more straightforward, but I'm really curious to see how he's going to be able to utilize this Veiled Temple going forward in this game 3.
One thing to notice as well, if you are looking into Chinese cards, the foiling on them is different than they are in the States, and they bend like Beckham.
Really, I mean, we've seen it this entire season, regional circuit long, and oh, it looks like it's Pit Crew v Pit Crew. We have one of the innovators of the deck, and then perhaps one of the players that really enjoyed the playstyle. So it looks like one of them will be getting to the Pit Crew first, and that's going to be the Ezreal on the right. TCC, we can call him, and he does have the infamous combo, the Cole following the pit crew. You get to play it, you ready the pit crew, you attach it onto the pit crew, you push forward, rinse and repeat as you keep on generating gold tokens every time you conquer. So this is looking rather good for TCC so far.
Yeah, I said Doran's ring earlier, but yeah, the combination that we're looking here is call. So, and we've even got a seal as well in the hand. So I think we can actually go for a double conquer and oh no, we no, because we don't have ganking. We're missing ganking to be able to do this. So
Yeah, and the
uh
ganking does get added because of the boots of swiftness. So you are missing the boots so far for the true unstoppable combo, if you will. But at the minimum, you are able to get in and out. And because you conquer, we're seeing the Veiled Temple come into play right now. You do get to ready the seal. Wait a minute, does he have something to wait, is it when you conquer? Let me reread Veiled Temple real quick.
yeah, I'm wondering what the pause here could be.
Yeah, when you conquer here, you may ready a friendly gear. So exactly as we were just discussing. So you do get to ready the seal. You get to put back the pit crew. And does he have something to make use of the seal? I think he just wants to have it available on his opponent's turn for something like a call shot at the minimum. But I don't think he actually had that card in hand. Perhaps a bit of a bluff, if you will. But the pit crew online always feels good. And speak of the rat himself coming out for the opposing EZ. Cole getting attached. I almost was thinking he's going to attach both of the calls to just keep on generating 2 gold every conquer. And now he's just going to be copying the Veiled Temple. How would that work, Corey, in your opinion? Can you ready the gold as soon as you conquer, or because you moved? Because Cole says when you conquer, get a gold. And then Veil, when you conquer, ready a gear. Oh, non-token gear. Never mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that they have that
Oh no, it
covered in.
actually just reads ready a gear, so
It
perhaps you
it
could
doesn't
get the
say
gold token.
non-token.
Yeah, I think you could ready the gold actually in theory.
I failed my judge test the one time I took it, so I don't know that I would know for certain. But because he didn't ready, I would assume these players would know that interaction and would be readying a gold token here when there was nothing else that he could ready. So I'm gonna guess that you can't because of the way that how making gold or how playing things from an equipment versus the battlefield. But
Yeah, it's
we've
probably
double suited up.
some kind of nuance there, but it almost feels like you can order the different sequencing there. And we're seeing chat. You can't ready the go from call because it doesn't exist to target during the finalization. Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Pip in chat. And okay, we do get a little final call on that, so it does make sense why we didn't see the Ezreal player on the left to go ahead and do that. Not that it would have made the biggest a difference, but just something to be mindful for these players, as it seems to be a very prevalent combo. And speaking of being prevalent, the Ezreal champion coming out, probably the most pivotal card out of all of Spiritforged. Would you say this is the most impactful card in set 2, or is there one that's a little bit better than him?
It's probably going to be one of the more played cards just because of how many decks other than Ezreal will play it. It coming out of the champion zone for Ezreal is really nice, but uh, it, it, my guess is it's probably going to end up being around Kaisa levels expensive.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to guess, but I am not known for having great card financial advice.
Yeah, and these guys are a bit of just deja vu on each other's battlefields or boards in general. One plays the pit crew, the other one plays the pit crew, the other one plays the Ezreal champ, and so on and so forth. But one started first, and as the player that currently has the point lead, does that end up being the name of the game towards it as we approach later stages of this game? Is the player that scored first and got the pit crew online first most likely to win? Because I'm trying to think, where at what point will this left Ezreal try to stabilize and kind of turn things in his favor? Do you need something like a singularity? I don't even remember if the pit crews from last week or the one we're seeing right here on the screen had things like singularity. Do you remember if they had those hard removal options?
I don't remember them having that. I think because they had things like Bellows Breath and things that can target enough times to trigger Ezreal. But interesting that the player on the left chose to play the Ezreal from hand as opposed to the one from the champion zone. Well, I'm gonna assume the closer we get to 6, 7 points here, the more we'll see some spells going back and forth between the two right now. But they seem to be just comfortable enough getting just a pile of gold here.
Yeah, just spoiled with riches, if you will. So much gold, so much resources. You know, you're never running out of runes. Things like Watchers accelerated easy. I mean, as long as you have the energy, of course. But things like Rebuke, something to keep an eye on. Those are going to be very efficiently played. The pit crew just going forward and doing what he does. Gets the conquer, gets the
What the
gold.
heck is this? Oh, it's Mind Splitter,
Oh,
of course.
speaking of high power cost, it looks like both of them having the idea
Oh,
in mind.
yeah, mind splittering a mind splitter, but then still leaving a mind splitter. is you would have liked to have gotten the only Mind Splitter he would have, ideally, because then you've got yours in play, theirs is gone, you don't get the board presence from it. But 4 cards on TCC side means that this first Mind Splitter isn't going to be too backbreaking, but I would say that's the first real big momentum shift that we've seen so far outside of just going first.
Yeah, I believe so as well. And that he was already the one slightly ahead. Looks like the pickup for the AI Ezreal will be the seal, so nothing too impactful for this turn. Most likely looking at playing out one of his Mind Splitters of his own. He does have the energy for it, but decides to push up first, gets the Conquer, gets the gold. But I think he's still looking at a Mind Splitter, because what did he have in hand? He had an additional pit crew. He had the sealed he just picked up, and then he had a Mind Splitter. Might as well trade one of those golds for a sealed, a little bit more permanent. I mean, I guess a little bit more permanent. Sends the pick crew, but I think we're just ending the turn with something like a Mind Splitter. Makes a whole lot of sense to me, but it almost seems like this game of tag is favoring the person that started first. You play out a Mind Splitter, you're completely tapped out, and then the Ezreal on the right conquers again 2 times with the pick crew, going up to 6, setting up for a potential final game to go from that 6 to 8. And oh, those are better cards, I want to say. Frigid Touch, the blue orange champion, and Rebuke, and that was an instant pick. He's kind of intimidated by that blue orange.
Yeah, so he's got the Rebuke now, which is going to be able to make one of these combats just really undesirable for the AI on the left.
Yeah, this is looking like it's going to be down to the very end, but looking at the hand, one pick crew in hand for Ezreal AI, and then a whole lot of better cards. I want to say that's actually a second Rebuke he picked up. 2 Rebukes and a Frigid Touch. That seems like the exact combat tricks to keep your opponent off their game plan, off to conquer your own battlefield game plan. So I'm leaning slightly on the TCC side because of the cards currently in hand. He's going to be going up to 5. The Mind Splitter, or even the pick crew himself, if you have another gear, you're able to go ahead and push the Void Gate, go up to that even death point, or not death point, but you guys know what I mean, that pivotal point that you want to be at to try to close things out the next turn. And he does indeed go up to 6. Wait, did he not get his point, Corey? Why didn't he move the point up to 5 on the Conquer Unveiled Temple? Oh,
I think that he just didn't, yeah. So we got all 4. Little bit of shortcutting happening here as both these players fully understand what each other are doing. And going back to the Ezreal from hand, it's because of the Mind Splitters, of course. That's why you would play the one from hand first, because the one near champion zone can't get Mind Splittered. So
that does make a whole lot of sense, but something that's not going to be a whole lot of helpful in this matchup is going to be Wages of Pain. But luckily, as you mentioned, the Chosen Champion yet to be played, getting played out right now. What are going to be the 2 hits off the top? Is it something a little bit more fruitful? A Watcher could get there, but he really wishes he had something like a Watcher Bellows Breath combo that we've seen in the previous regionals. A card sharp, a card sharp, and a Watcher. I just don't think it's enough to completely stop the game plan, because we know what's in hand. It's a double Rebuke. No matter how many units you're going to be able to put on the battlefield, 2 Rebukes should be enough. And look at all the abundance of gold on TCC side. You have no problem playing for 2 Rebukes. And it's even your final turn, your final push. You don't mind even if you didn't have the gold, funny enough. So, man, I can't believe the 3rd place finisher from last weekend might be getting brought down at the hands of his own innovation, right?
let's see if he might be able to Jedi mind trick him here. Trying, maybe there's a little, Obi-Wan versus Anakin, or maybe, he can just will him to make the incorrect play. But
Right.
Just checking out those pile. Yeah, Scrooge McDuck would be proud.
Because at this point, as you mentioned, it would take something like a big misplay coming out from TCC side, because as it stands, it's just not enough units, not enough might pressure on the defense. Yes, you got up to 7. You're technically in the lead, but all TCC has to do is conquer both on this very next turn. And we saw the frigid touch. And like we keep going back to, there was 2 rebukes, and I'm not seeing anything like a hard bargain able to be repeated or even played at that from the side of AI. So it looks as good as done, but maybe there's something we're missing here. I'm trying to think again.
No, I think the last thing we've got here is this Watcher that we're just gonna have sit on a battlefield here, and we know that he knows about the rebuke. So I think he may be just trying to do some math, potentially seeing, maybe, I mean, it's probably not going to do anything next turn. You might as well just get it down to eat the rebuke that he knows about, but it's going to be the second rebuke that's going to be the backbreaker.
Yeah, I mean, we could do the math. Card Chops at 3. Pit Crew is at 5. I believe the calls add 1. So he's standing here at 5. So up to 8. Watcher bringing up to 7. So up to 15 total. Actually, I think I'm doing my math wrong. That was 8, 2, and then 3. 13 total might. Actually, with the 7, what am I doing? I think it's already off to a weird start. But 14 total might. Wait, why am I 2 and 5? Well, yeah, I did. I think I said it right the first time. 15 total might on the Veil Temple, and then just 3 might and a Wages of Pain on the left. So if you could rebuke, one of them seems like a really straightforward conquer, the easy conquered, and that's the option for the rebuke. So Wages of Pain getting used for nothing. You might as well Wages of Pain your own unit to get the gold, but I don't think it's really going to be mattering in this position.
He's just going to pick the Ezreal back up, and I think just hope that, I think we could have, oh yeah, I was going to say, I'm like, how how is, oh, is
It's
he only have
GG. Didn't
2
he score
calls?
twice? Oh no, he
Yeah.
traded, and then now he's going in for the double conquer with the pit crew. So off the back of the pit crew, just like you would expect from these Ezreal decks, getting it done in a game 3 moment. Well done. I was really rooting for the fan favorite. I mean, they're both Ezreal, so at least we have one Ezreal out of the 4 that made it into top 64. Does guarantee, and you could tell this time he was a little bit more stressed. His hair looks a little bit crazier. Nothing that's too negative, but if you remember from last week, seemed a bit more composed. That match must have really stressed him out.